May the 7th, 2025. Guys, you're looking at images from LASCO C2. It's not the SDO, it's the other satellite that gives us these Earth-facing perspectives. In the last few frames, what you just saw was a very powerful filament eruption. Now, it's headed north. We had one earlier today in the southern hemisphere released, and you saw those large filaments. And then right in these last few frames, we'll let it play back. You're going to see another one right there. Now, everybody's been praying. They've been keeping your fingers crossed, holding your breath, the whole 9 yards on this sunspot. Look at the size of that, the blue section. Again, we're dealing with multiple polarities that can cause an X flare at any moment. This one is starting to become active, and with a dual polarity, so is this one right here. This has been a strange one of the largest of the solar cycle, and it has been one of the most low-keyed. Now, let me say something, guys, because what I've seen before, right in the area this sunspot is approaching, which is very close to it right now, a lot of times you'll see that section will be the Earth and the Sun connectivity point. Now, it will vary, but when that happens, you're adding a different amount of energy in there because every 8.2 minutes, there's a plasma charge from the sun to our planet. And sometimes when that happens, we see a sunspot just about to escape out this right side, it will connect and throw a flare. Right now, it would not be, unless it was an X flare very powerful, directly Earth facing, it would be angled a little more to the right, but we would still feel it. We just need this thing to ease on around, get on the back side, and weaken before it comes back around. We're going to have to watch these two, though. Now, you're looking at the real-time solar wind. It's the best solar wind speed we've seen just about since the G4 magnetic storm, going on right into 3 weeks now in the middle of April. And we're down here at 459 kilometers per second. 300 still not showing, so we're still slightly elevated. But guys, at this rate, I think it was a little easier on some people today. Now, our shields are slightly open, not much. They're just below that opening line. You got a -5 going up and a +5 and a -1, which gives you a 6-degree gap. Not that bad. Density is very low right now. Temperature is dropping along with the solar wind speed. What I think we're seeing, because of, we just saw 3 filaments release. We've got 3 sunspots that are on multiple magnetic configurations. We may be seeing a pause before the storm, or a calm before the storm, may be a better word. Now, this is an interesting article on Space Weather Today, and they're talking about what's called the Gliesberg cycle. We have our solar cycles. We're in solar cycle 25 now, and they're approximately 11.5 or 11.8 years. They coincide with the orbit of Jupiter, which I think is the sun's binary twin. I think it's a failed gas giant. Anyway, you have the solar cycles of every 11.8 years, but then you have what's called the Gliesberg cycle. And that happens, say, every 90 to 100 years. And they're saying on here, 100-year Gliesberg cycle. Now, the gold lines are solar cycles, 11.8 years. And you can see at 2000 when we were here, and we've been through a couple since then. But this longer line, the black line, is this 100-year cycle. And what they're saying now is that if you've been enjoying the auroras of the solar cycle 25, we got good news. The next few solar cycles could be even more intense, the result of the little-known phenomenon called the Centennial Gliesberg cycle. Now, I'm not an aurora watcher. I'm too far south. But I know what it means, and it's not good news for us, that especially if you don't like that heat in the summer. We were told this was going to happen. And what you're seeing in the gold lines here, you see we're talking about 50-year spans and things like that, is the black line of this section from 1700 to 1800 is right here at this level. See, 1361. This is total irradiance in watts and meters squared. You can see that there. They go back and they can look at the models. They can look at the information. And then as it comes up here, 1850, you notice the Gliesberg cycle is a little higher. And then we get now, coming out of 1950, you see the multiple cycles, but the Gliesberg cycle is here. So we're about to start rising again. This is 2000 right there. And that's what they're talking about. 2000, this is one solar cycle, 11.8 years, now another one. And, which gets us into 2025. And we're going to be on the rise starting now. In other words, solar cycle 26, 27, 28. And talking about 100 years, so we'd say, what, maybe 8 solar cycles of an increase. Now, we won't be here that long, but we do know that it's very active right now. So next solar cycle, it's going to be more active. But that fits into prophecy, doesn't it? It says you probably heard of this 11-year sunspot cycle, but the Gliesberg cycle is a slower modulation which suppresses sunspot numbers every 80 to 100 years. For the past 15 years, the sun has been near a low point in this cycle, but this is about to change, and that's what we're looking at right there. Guys, and this is how they say they know. It says, we've been looking at protons in the South Atlantic anomaly, explains the paper's lead author, Cadlin Adams, and astrophysics students at the University of Colorado. These are particles from the sun that come unusually close to Earth because our planet's magnetic shield is weak over the South Atlantic. That's what they're saying. This blue spot, or the anomaly in blue, is a weak spot in the Earth's magnetic field where particles from the sun can come relatively close to Earth. And they're saying it turns out that these protons in the South Atlantic anomaly are a canary in a coal mine for this Gliesberg cycle. When these protons decrease, which kind of is opposite of what you would think, it means the Gliesberg cycle is about to surge. That's exactly what we found, says Adams. The protons are clearly decreasing in measurements we obtained from NOAA's Polar Operational Environment satellites. Guys, I would have to put this in there into this study is, but what points are they increasing in if they're decreasing here? We've seen the breaks in the shields, and I showed you what's called CUSP. CUSPS, where these openings are. So I'm wondering if that increase into those areas is decreasing this. But anyway, it says these protons are just the latest in a growing body of evidence suggesting that this Gliesberg minimum is passed. So we're going into the Gliesberg maximum. Current sunspot counts are up. The sun's ultraviolet output has increased. We know that, don't we, guys? And the overall level of solar activity in solar cycle 25 has exceeded forecast. I agree 100% because I've never been through what I've been through in the last 2 or 3 weeks with these strong solar winds. It all adds to an upswing in the 100-year cycle. So that, again, means that next solar cycle, 26, is something we're going to have to deal with. If we make it to 27, it's going to be worse. Now, you're looking at a picture of Joan Feynman, and it says also means that Joan was right. Before she passed away in 2020, the pioneering solar physicist was a leading researcher of this Gliesberg cycle, and she firmly believed that the centennial oscillation was responsible for the remarkable weakness of solar cycle 24 from 2012 up in 2013. In that period of solar cycle 24, anyway, in a seminal paper established in 2014, she argued that the minimum of the Gliesberg cycle fell almost squarely on the top of solar cycle 24, making it the weakest cycle in 100 years, saying the tide is about to turn. And, you know, it's a shame that now that it's being proved that she's passed away, but she's looking down from heaven. But it's wonderful that they have enough gumption to come back and give her the credit for it, because I know how it feels No one believed me when I told them that the earthquakes a lot of them were caused by solar flares, until I proved it during the 2 or 3 X flares blew out and caused the Fukushima quake. And we were watching the entire scenario. And that afternoon when they hit, that's when we actually lost a third of the oceans to radiation. Guys, let me say this before I forget. California right now is going through a really rough time in the oceans. You guys need to pay very close attention to what I'm telling you. This algae bloom is killing dolphins, whales, seals, making them crazy until they come up on the shore and go into seizures and die. But they've even been filmed in that agony attacking surfers and swimmers. And what's so bad about it was, I think this weekend, down in Huntington Beach, the one place I've been to is a beautiful place before Fukushima. They baptized hundreds and hundreds of people in this water with this extraordinary algae bloom is what they're calling it. But guys, Fukushima's been running around in that ocean current that rotates around through Alaska, comes all the way down the west coast, and then goes back over to Japan and keeps rotating, right? And so I think that may have as much to do with the sickness and disease of these beautiful animals as much as the algae bloom. But now, and this thing was led by a major evangelist. Wouldn't he maybe want to just look that all the reports up and down the West Coast from Oregon, Washington State, California, that all of this is going on? Just saying, some people are very smart, but they can be very ignorant at the same time. So, again, Christ didn't run to the ocean to baptize or let John the Baptist baptize him. That's not the point. But I wonder how many of these people could become sick because this thing is deadly. It's killing the dolphins, the whales, anything that comes in contact, they go into seizures. So if any of you guys were over there in that baptism, God bless you, but please look into the Pacific Ocean. I've warned about it since Fukushima began. Now, we may have a large, maybe thousands of people that have been poisoned with radiation and possibly part of this algae bloom. Now, let's go back to this a minute. It says this resurgence of the Gliesberg cycle makes a clear prediction. It says solar cycles 26 through 28 should be progressively more intense. Solar cycle 26 peaking in 2036. Again, you got 11.8 years to the end of that one, would be stronger than current solar cycle 25, and so on. The projected maximum of the Gliesberg cycle is around 2055. So we're dealing with these 50-year or so trends in this cycle, aligning more or less with solar cycle 28. That cycle could be quite intense. So guys, that's roughly, you're getting close to 40 years away, not quite that much. But let's deal with solar cycle 26, because that's about to kick in before too long. And again, biblical prophecy is so accurate. Think about it. We're right here in the period we're seeing that India and Pakistan is just about other than nuclear, they're in all-out war. The Houthis decided today that they had had enough of the U.S. and Israel blowing them to smithereens and said there's a peace treaty. We'll see. Ukraine said that, and they're still, I think last night in Russia, Russia's getting ready for a big parade, a big celebration day, that it was the heaviest drone strike from Ukraine yet. Now, Ukraine never owned a drone, still doesn't. It's Europe, and I hope that the U.S. has pulled away from it. I think that Trump has made enough phone calls between him and Putin that deal's worked out. We're not gonna go along with Ukraine and their biolabs and all that bull crap anymore. We do want you, though, Trump, I'm sure, saying, he said he did, he said, let's bring this war to an end because of the innocent lives. Have you ever heard a president say that and people still attacking? Let's go back to this. It says, again, with a major increase in launch rates, it will be important to plan for changes to the space environment that thousands of satellites and spacecraft are flying through from all sides, says Adams. Solar activity and particle fluxes could all be very different in the decades ahead. And Elon and those guys, you'd think they'd be a little bit smarter, but a few years ago, I remember they did one of their Starlink launches. By the way, guys, a few years back, there was a launch, I think it was from Florida, but at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I happened to wake up, look out the window, looking south from our location, and it looked like a train going through the skies. In other words, they were in very low orbit at that time. It was a train. They had been launched, but and other people, I mentioned it in the comments, other people said they saw it too. One fellow, I don't know if you were out there, guys, I'll never forget, he said, my son ran in the house and said, Dad, they're here. Hope you guys are still there and intact and can respond to that, but I'll never forget it because I had no idea what it was. Back then, it was when Starlink was first becoming popular. But I remember that they launched during a solar flare and it knocked the hell out of them. Pushed a lot of satellites back down into low Earth orbit. They couldn't make it back up. And maybe they learned a lesson. Elon probably fired a few solar astronomers or astrophysicists at that point, saying, guys, come on. We're dealing with high tech right now, and you can't watch BP Earthwatch channel and tell you about a solar flare coming in. Just kidding, guys, but the information is available was my point. And they have that, but I imagine they have changed that procedure or the launch procedure quite a bit. But guys, we're watching this again. We're looking at prophecy start to unfold. The Lord has a perfect plan, and people that are watching, like this lady, Miss Joan Feynman, they told us about it. And it's important. Guys, we're watching this. You watch it. It's a heads up. A lot is going on. So you guys be safe.